Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we're super happy to have you here. And if you've been listening and enjoying for a while, I would be super grateful if you would please take a moment to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the best and simplest ways to pay it forward and help others find the show so that they too can tap into the powerful perspectives and positive vibrations we are collectively emanating. The other unique and magical way to share this show is by sending any friends you think would benefit from listening to this podcast our Game with the Universe link at positivehead.com/game. Also listed in the show notes, which will serve them up a quote-unquote random episode when they click it. Just instruct them before clicking the link to close their eyes for a moment and sincerely ask the universe to cue up the episode that contains the insight and perspectives that they most need to hear at this point in their life journey, and then click to listen to whatever episode is synchronistically served up to them. I have heard time and time again from people about the incredible results they received playing the game. So just tell your friends magical results are guaranteed or their karma back. All right, all you positive heads, welcome, welcome. Here we go again. It is a marvelous Monday here in the studio as I record, and grateful as always to be back with each and every one of you. Today, I am going to do something that I've been doing for quite some time, off and on, pulling from the Untethered Soul card deck by Michael Singer, author of the same book, Untethered Soul. These are like, different quotes, thoughts, ideas from the book. And I just, I've really enjoyed over the last year or so, just periodically picking up the deck and reading a card or cards from it and just sort of sharing my insights or thoughts regard the wisdom on the card. And so we're going to do that again. So here I go. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle. Let's see what comes up. And of course, if it's something that we pulled before, I can set it aside or not, depending how I'm feeling about what's on it. Okay, this first one is short but sweet, and it looks like we have pulled it before, but I'm going to go ahead and just talk about it for a minute because I think it's a fascinating concept to talk about. I don't remember when I pulled it, probably many, many months, maybe a year or so back, but it's very short and sweet. Beyond is infinite in all directions. Now, have you ever thought of this? Have you ever done, there's a great Joe Dispenza meditation where it's all about visualizing and experiencing yourself in space. Like, imagine for a moment just shutting your eyes and realizing that, imagine the whole world actually disappears. If quantum physics, sort of shows when we're looking, when consciousness is observing something, it snaps into place, and when consciousness is not observing, it's in a state of quantum superposition. So if you close your eyes, imagine the idea just conceptually for a minute, because physics supports this idea that when you're closing your eyes, nothing is that, it's all gone. You're not observing reality, and imagine you're just literally pure consciousness in a void. And then you open your eyes, and then, it's like propagating in front of you. And so what I like about this playing and feeling into this, and that particular meditation I referenced, is it really gets you to feel like this idea that you are floating in eternity, and infinity is ahead of you, behind you, to the left of you, to the right of you. There is no up, down, left, right, forward, back. It's like you are floating in eternity right now. It's like Chogyam Trungpa said, the bad news is you're falling through the air, nothing to hold on to. The good news is there's no ground. And that's, you're infinitely supported by this eternity, this infinity in all directions. And just, playing with the idea of tapping and feeling the truth of the situation that you are literally in it now It's really empowering. It's like, because what you can then quickly get to is like, okay, if I'm in eternity now and it's in all directions, it's behind me, in front of me. So eternity is behind me as well. So you ask yourself the question, oh, am I going to make it through? Will I survive? How's this going to play out? Is my job going to, I'm going to make enough money? Whatever the question, it becomes laughable in the face of the truth of the situation in which you find yourself, which is you've traversed eternity up to this point, although you may not remember, prior to this incarnation. And of course, some, maybe you do, but most don't. And yet, tapping into this reality that is what has transpired, and yet somehow here you are, and you've survived, you've made it, you've found a way. And so relaxing in the truth that you always have found a way, and this too shall pass. If you don't like something, this too shall pass, and inevitably you get through it, you go through it, and something else arises. And that's why I always say, if you don't like something, the good news is it's going to pass. If you love something, fully appreciate it, because it's going to pass. This too shall pass. And so it really gives you the healthiest possible perspective on navigating the now. And that is appreciating the heck out of anything that's showing up, knowing that abundance is realizing, and is true abundance is looking around and realizing what you have is enough, right? And that you can really appreciate and value what's around you, and especially when it comes easy, something really good is happening. And if it's something that you don't like, it's there to sharpen your axe in some way. Smooth seas never made for a skilled sailor. You came to be a skilled sailor, and you happen to be on the seas in a day when it's meant to be rougher, so that you can grow, so that you can be like the tree that needs the wind in order to have strong roots. Otherwise, it just falls over and dies without the stress of the wind, right? They've seen that. They did that, that fascinating study where they took the tree and put it in the most perfect environment, and they kept falling over and dying until they finally realized what the problem was. It wasn't the lack of sun or light or any of those things. It was the stress of the wind that gave it its root strength. And that's us, right? Before we continue on with today's episode, for those of you interested in getting more fantastic fungi in your life, I want to take a quick moment to tell you about a friend of mine's brand new company, The Great Mother. Recently, I have been drinking The Great Mother's superfood mushroom coffee alternative called Ritual, as well as regularly taking their awesome Ally microdoses, and I am truly loving both. As you probably know, these days, many of the world's highest achievers and performers swear by microdosing. The problem is it can still be difficult to get a hold of magic mushrooms. That's why when my friend reached out, who lives in an area and country where legalization is not a problem like it was in the past, and said he'd be willing to offer microdoses to my listeners, I wanted to pass the word along. Ally microdoses are 100% organic. And in addition to a small amount of the magic active ingredient, they also contain functional mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, chaga, and other brain boosters like bacopa. Ally is essentially a full spectrum nootropic. And of course, the coffee alternative Ritual doesn't contain magic mushrooms, but it has an array of the best organic functional mushrooms in the world. And, with functional mushrooms, it's really important to get them from the highest integrity sources. And whereas some other highly popular mushroom coffee alternatives on the market only contain a few varieties of functional mushrooms in their actual ingredients, Ritual has 7. Not only does it contain more types, it also contains 3 to 4 times the amount that the big brands have in each serving. And it tastes amazing. I actually like to have it on its own, as well as mixing it into my coffee sometimes as well. However, since this is definitely a unique offering, there are a few steps. First, just reach out and request to follow the private page, thegreat.mother on Instagram. Once you've been accepted to follow, just message what you're interested in getting, and someone will get back to you. All right, so let's see what else I got here. Haven't seen this one before. Spiritual energy is what you're experiencing when you're enthused by something, and all this high energy comes up inside of you. I like this. So I'm thinking instantly of going to the gym and getting on the treadmill, for example, I found as a tool for this purpose for me. And that really becomes the game. How do I drum up this spiritual energy? This podcast, all 9 years ago, over 2,000 episodes ago, was a way for me to get enthused and drum up spiritual energy by doing something that that accomplishes that aim, that excites me. Getting on the treadmill, I can think about, listen to music and think about things in sort of a, like an affirmation kind of way. It's become like a practice for me, and it drums up all the spiritual energy, all this enthusiasm. And that becomes like finding those things in yourself that you can do in actions and steps that you can take to utilize drumming up spiritual energy, whether, starting your morning routine with a meditation or affirmations or yoga or getting on the treadmill or whatever it is, you're doing a podcast, reading a book, any of those things. If you're consciously drumming up that enthusiasm and therefore that spiritual energy, what are we doing? We're essentially turning on the faucet, right? We're opening up the channel to allow more of this golden energy. Talk about abundance. Talk about, the source of all abundance is that energy, right? That non-physical spiritual energy of high vibration, right? And so by doing things proactively, we all get there by happenstance sometimes, right? By doing things proactively to drum it up and create it, and knowing how to sort of push your own buttons to open the tap, if you will. What a gift, right? What an incredible an intelligent thing to begin to do and to navigate. So I like that one a lot. Okay, maybe one more here. Let's see. Ultimately, the only way to know about God is by letting your being merge into the being and then seeing what happens to you. Ooh, I like this a lot. The only way to know about God is letting your being merge into the being. And that's kind of goes along a little bit with what we were talking about in the last one, which is getting into a state where you're opening the faucet, right? You're allowing more of spirit to come through. And of course, the more you start seeing through the eyes of God, you see through the perspectives that your higher self or God or the universe or source or consciousness, whatever you want to call it, the way it views things as it's all, there is no ultimately good or bad. It's all happening for God. It's all happening for good at the highest level, right? And so by moving into that perspective, you're allowing your human self to merge with the higher self, the being. And then now it is you and you are it, more so, right? Christ consciousness is permeating your physical vessel, and you're seeing and speaking and acting as higher self would, should it have a receptive vessel, physical vessel to navigate 3D reality with. And I think that's a lot of what we're doing, is creating the right conditions for receptivity of higher frequencies and higher versions of ourself to come through, and to we're kind of sent to do the groundwork and like, okay, go get it ready, so that get yourself ready so that you can actually handle these expanded parts of your being, the being. And now, as it's like, we can talk about what it's like to merge with the one and experience as God. And, you hear about people's near-death experiences and things like that, and having that sort of experience. But the ultimate, we can only gets us so far, right? The only way to truly know is by the merging, the becoming experience. At some point, you put the talk about what it would be like down, and you be it. And you allow it to happen through you. And that's really the process I think we're all engaged in. Anyone tuning into this broadcast certainly is on that journey of becoming more of who, it's like the Buddha said, is like the aim to growth is like removing the obstacles to the true self, essentially, right? I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that's like, it's not about adding more, removing the barriers to allow the true essence of your being, the being, come through. And now you get to experience in doing that dance, and it's a whole different type of reality that we can only speculate, right? And as we experience more, we can talk more from a standpoint of actual lived experience. And I think we're all somewhere in that dance. You're more of the being is coming through you now as you hear these words than it was probably a year ago or 10 years ago or whatever, right? So even though there's further to go, remember the journey is the goal, and you're in the journey right now, infinities in all directions. And don't go so hard on yourself. You don't dance to get to a certain place on the dance floor. You do it for the whole experience. You don't listen to a song to hear the final note. And so that we're in the process of becoming more of the being, and it's a pleasure to do it with you. So thank you for taking this journey, this ride right alongside me as we float through eternity. What a trip. I do have a song to leave you with today. It is Owl by the artist Northern Form, and this is the Good Lee remix. Hope you enjoy. Till next time, journey well.